we're doing the other side of the trim, and we're also gonna add the door handles. In addition to other things, we're probably gonna do the roof as well. I don't know, but it's pretty much cold in Oklahoma City today, so I'll show you guys how I do it. We should be able to get that done. At least he gets one thing done a day. So don't forget to like and subscribe. There we go. So today I used some of that green tape. It's still masking tape, regular masking tape. I ran out of white tape, which is always good to have some extras around. Same color or not, doesn't really matter. But I have everything masked up like I did on the other side. This time around, we're gonna do the door handle black as well. So I just pretty much taped around it, took my time. I also taped the inner side. That gets the hand, you know, that rubs your hand whenever you're holding it, because you don't want paint on there, because it's like rubbery, very rubbery texture, and that's not gonna cure pretty well with paint, and you have it on your hands. So I'll go ahead and I kind of lifted that up. I just use a screw because of the way the door handle is, to make sure I get every single corners of it, to make sure when you look at it, it looks pretty much close to factory. But when you do that, you also have to go ahead and take the mirror out, which I've already showed you guys how I did that in the previous video. I also went ahead and I did the same thing on the back. Just put my little screw there after I taped everything up pretty well. I also did the interior, like I said earlier. I've already wiped down the surface pretty well. I just did, as you can see, there's still some, it looks like some stain, but it's fine. I mean, it's gonna go away. You don't want grease on there, so I just sprayed it with water and I wiped it with a heavy duty towel. And I did the same thing through and through. Cracked the door open again and stuck the paper inside of it. But yeah, that is pretty much what we'll be going for. Another thing is, make sure you have your hot water. I don't know if you can see some steam coming out of there. It's a little hot. The reason is I'm gonna put my cans in there to make sure they go back to regular temperature, so they don't spray, scatter, and everything like that. So I'm gonna let it sit in there for a little bit, and I'll go ahead and I'll start painting, starting with the prime. So I'll make sure I let it sit in there a little bit. You can use a bucket, you can use whatever. I'm not gonna say what I use. If you know, you know, but it's not what I should be using, so I gotta hurry up and get it done. But you let them sit in there for a little bit, and you put them back in there after you spray. That's pretty much what we're gonna go for. Also, thinking about letting that little crease, silver, kind of throw some accent in there on and on, but I'm not sure, because that means I have to tape it and then get a box cutter knife and then cut around it and all that. So I'm not sure I want to do that, which though I think it'll look cool, but I don't want to do that, so I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to proceed with that. But pretty much that is what we have. We were thinking about doing the gas cap as well, but that didn't happen. And again, it did rain a lot today. I haven't cleaned out the back, but you can see I put taillights and everything else back on there just so we don't get water, because it's sitting outside. Still have to scuff all of those off the tail light, and I have to put the batch back on there, but I'm not in the hurry. Like I said, it's coming along pretty well. I haven't done the door handles on this side, but I did do the mirror. So as you can see, the mirror and that blackout trim, I think it looks pretty good. Thanks with the door handle, as well as the little fender insert over there, it's gonna look pretty good. So that's how it looks after the first couple of coats of primer. Made sure I stand on the right angle depending on the curve I'm trying to address or trying to spray paint. And that's kind of how it looks after about, I'll say about 4 coats, 3 to 4 coats of light primer. So I'll let it sit a little bit. Again, it's cold, so I'm not gonna let it sit for too long. It's not gonna cure the same way it will if the temperature was not that low, or was a little bit warmer. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and now apply my paint now. before I let it sit some more. And with it being a trim, I mean, you don't want to have some oversprays or anything like that, so you got to be very careful with the amount of coats that you put on there so it doesn't start dripping. So I just put 2 coats of the actual paint. As you can see, it seems pretty glossy, but it's gonna dry out differently. And also, the temperature being cold, it's not gonna, you know, it can easily make you go ahead and have some runs. You want to have that clear, that little reflection there, you know, without creases or anything like that, because if you do have those, you know you're getting runs. Now little things like this, I don't know if you can see those little imperfections, they can be addressed easily with clear coat at the end of the project. I said before we go ahead and strip everything out, so it's gonna be pretty interesting. But yeah, I'm letting it sit a little bit here before I go ahead and apply my last couple of paint, black coat, and then I'll let it sit a little bit longer before I put my clear coat on there. As you can see with the reflection, it's starting to dry out, but I'm kind of under the shade, which I won't necessarily recommend because of the tree, but you want a space where you can control the airflow and also the reflection of the sun and the temperature. So pick one that works for you. This is kind of what works for me because I still have this thing that I'm dealing with on this side, and I still got to address that, but I haven't been able to fully get that done. As you can see, the wheels are on as well temporarily. I have some lug nuts that I'll put on there that should get us to point B. So pretty much it. Let it sit a little bit more and I should be right back at it. Alright, so since we've already done the trim on this side, we're just doing the door handles. So that's kind of how I got it taped. I gave myself enough room to where I can kind of have some overspray on the paper and I can wipe it off. So little things like this, like those scratches like this, I'm not gonna bother too much with it. And I can sand it out too. I probably will sand it down a little bit more, and I'll also tip the inside, just so I can not have that paint fill on the rubbery side of it. But yeah, that's after my first light coat of paint. Now you have to be very careful because when you're doing this, if you're doing it on the car, you're gonna have runs coming from the top going underneath, so you have to make sure you check underneath to make sure you don't have like runs and stuff like that, otherwise it's gonna look very ugly at the end. So just do light coats. I'll even step back a little bit more and do a bunch of little light coats instead of doing some heavy coats, because it is gonna run if you do that. So I'm gonna try to see if you can see there's no run under. I'll show you on the other side as I did it before, and you will see exactly what I meant. Now that's how we kind of learn. I mean, it's a learning process for everybody. We're trying to just get it to perfection, but eventually, you know. So I don't know if you can see right there, you see the little runs. You can't really see them from the top because nobody looks at your door handles from underneath, but if you're just trying to do it right, you know, you might want to be careful with the heavy coats. Again, like this, nobody can tell, it looks great. Like that, nobody can tell, it looks great. This side doesn't have runs, but the other side do. So also pay attention to that when you're doing your spraying. And again, it's getting colder and colder right now in Oklahoma City. That's why it's drying slower, and it's kind of giving me some little dots here and there, which is not necessarily good. But you want to make sure, like I said, that you do your light coats. I don't know if I can show you, there's some little runs right there. See that? So I'm gonna try to wipe that down a little bit before I spray a little bit more. But yeah, that's what you need to watch out for. But if it was much warmer and you had better lighting or heating, you spray further away. If you have more coverage on your door, it's gonna avoid you from getting those deals. So I'm still gonna wipe them off pretty good, and I'll move on. It's gonna look good. So pretty much I just put my second to last coat of paint. I'm gonna put a very light coat of paint. I still have some little underspray down there. I don't know if you can see. It's not dripping or anything, it's just there. Again, I'm gonna wipe that down a little bit, and I'm gonna spray my last light coat, and I'll let it sit before I go and attack it with the clear. Always make sure to check underneath, so you don't have those runs, and you kind of spray evenly, because if you do, when it dries out, you have all your stuff. When you open the door, there you go, you're gonna have a chunk of paints on your finger. It's gonna create a mess, and it's not gonna look as good as you want it to look. But yeah, again, the masking part is very, very important. Make sure you lift it up, make sure you put the tape where you want it to be, what you want it to cover. There's enough gap between the door seal, the handle seal, and the door itself, so you can stick some tape in there or some paper or anything like that. But yeah, make sure you get yourself enough room of coverage, because the more coverage you have on the door to prevent from overspray, the further away you can go to spray that out. Especially if you're outside, you don't want, you know, paint and stuff like that on your door or on the other accessories. But what I was saying earlier is, do not worry about that. I fixed that when I was doing the next mirror, and I will tell you guys how that came about and how you can avoid that. It's not a big deal. It's just gonna get scuffed out afterwards and then refinished again. But it does happen. It does happen, and I'll tell you why in the other video when I'm addressing a bunch of little mistakes there. So for the hood, the roof, I'm probably, like I said, gonna go ahead and send the rust all out to bare metal. I'll use some Bondo and I'll fill it up a little bit. Make sure I send it out a little bit again. Do the same on the other side over there, and then I'm gonna go ahead and clean the hood. The roof. I don't know why I keep on saying the hood. Clean the roof, and then I'll go ahead and I'll refinish it black as well. I think it's gonna look really good. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and spray my last coat of paint. I'm gonna shake my water so I can get the water off of it. Shake the can off. I'm gonna start spraying up here. Make sure that I get the paint coming out right, and then here I go with my last coat. Same here. And you see how far away I was from it, so I want to make sure there's not much run there. Still a little bit, and everybody have their own ways of dealing with it, but as you can see, I barely touched it, and that's what I got with some water on my hands. Barely touched it, and I was able to kind of buff that out. So I should be able to let it sit a little bit more, and as you can see, I'm blowing on it just to see how thicker it is, but that's just fine. I'm gonna let it sit like this for a little bit before I apply the clear coat as soon as the satin black cures on there. But yeah guys, that's magic. But yeah, so as you can see, I use you know, that's like cotton. I got wifey's acetone nail polish remover, and I kind of touched up on a couple of spots that went through without overbled. I still have my screwdriver in between just so it doesn't touch each other yet. It's not fully cured. Same here, but as you can see, you got a pretty good idea of what we will be looking at, and I think it looks really good. Yeah, so yeah, I'll let it sit. There you have it. The mirror is gonna go back on, and I think it's gonna look really good. Just like this, even with the car still being dirty, as you can see. Just look at, you know, it being under the shade. I just wiped it out a little bit, and I haven't even done the bottom trim yet on this side, but let me know what you think. I think it looks really good. I think it looks really good. So we'll go ahead and we'll do the bottom. We'll let it sit for a couple of hours. It wasn't perfect, to be honest. There's a couple of spots right there. There's another spot right there. Another spot right there. So it wasn't flawless, but it would definitely do the do. And pretty confident you make the whole car look better with the wheels and the lug nuts and everything else. I'll let you guys take a look at those lights again. Again, the car is dirty. I haven't even wiped it down yet, but that's what we'll be looking at. As I stated before, I'll go ahead and I'll wipe that Taurus out because it's just the outside tape from the letters. I'll take that out as well. I'm not gonna put the bottom part yet because we have something going down there, but I'll go ahead and I'll do the doors on this side, and yeah, I think it's gonna look pretty good. Yeah, I think it came out pretty well. That's the door. I think it's tying up pretty well. I haven't put that fender piece back in there yet, but it's drying out. Next thing that we'll be doing will be on that wheel on the front. Gotta figure it out to where I can get that tire back on there and eventually move on to the next step.